So people will be telling us to dream big, have big dreams, but can we afford to dream big in 2025? Or are the odds just stacked too high against us? Let's talk about how the pressures of today are shaping our ability and even our willingness to reach for the stars. If you have been watching my past videos, you would know that I have been talking about the power of obsessive dedication to one's cause, a stubborn, relentless dedication to one's purpose in life, whatever you decide that your purpose is, or even in the pursuit of uncovering what that purpose is, you are relentless and obsessive about it. I frame that as a powerful creative life force, and I use the stories of Wangari Maathai from Kenya, the environmentalist who influenced the planting of over 30 million trees in Kenya and abroad. And I also use the story of Marie Curie, the Polish scientist who discovered radioactivity and is the reason why we have things like MRIs and X-rays today. I use their stories to illustrate how they embodied this idea of obsessive dedication to one's cause. And in one of the videos, I also talked about the cost of this type of obsessive dedication. It could be one's health. In Marie Curie's case, she suffered exposure to radioactive energy, which eventually weakened her immune system and cost her her life. In Wangari Maathai's case, she was imprisoned 3 times and suffered many kinds of obstacles throughout her environmental campaigns. Today, I want to talk about, can we actually afford to dream this big? Is the world reading us of potential Wangari Maathais and Marie Curies just based on the pressure that we are feeling? It starts from this place where we're at today. There seems to be this trend towards living an unbothered life. And it's tied in with this whole soft life narrative that's coming up as well. This desire to be unbothered, to not be extra, to seem like we're not trying too hard. That's the sense that I'm getting, right? That it's cool to not care deeply. It's cool to not be too attached. I see it as a kind of resistance or challenge against the hyper hustle culture that our parents, passed on to us, especially the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs are just like, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. We're gonna do lazy jobs, and lazy doesn't mean like they're not working. It's like a lot of tech infused jobs where a lot is automated and they can do it remotely, allows for flexibility and this and that. Gen Z is like, we're not doing this 9-to-5 thing with y'all. We are going to find alternative ways of organizing our lives in a way that suits us. In Japan, there is a phenomenon that they're calling the Japanese youth are increasingly low desire. Like they don't have the same drive for the kind of ambitions that their parents had, climbing up the economic ladder, making a lot of money and all those kinds of things. People are just not trying to do that anymore because we've seen that you work, it's never enough. It's never enough. And so people are just like, okay, then I will do the bare minimum, get just enough to pay my bills and whatnot, and then keep it pushing, right? I can see where that comes from, and I fully respect it. And that's the reason I felt in the last video that I didn't want to come across as if I am just glorifying hustle culture, just hustle, because purpose is in the hustle. The way I see it is, if you're just working to ascend the ladder just because it's what society expects, if you're just trying to accumulate money just because of status and power and whatnot, then maybe you will feel unfulfilled by the time you get to the other end of it, maybe. But if what you are after, if what you are dedicated to, what you're chasing relentlessly is not driven by these external things, but from a real place of, I want to leave an impact, I want to do something that moves this world in a positive direction, whether I succeed or not, if those are the driving forces, then I don't think that it is hustle culture, right? Yes, you have to hustle, but not just to be part of a culture, but because it is what your purpose, what your passions, what your dreams require of you, right? If that's the case, my fear is that this desire to go away from hustle, I wouldn't even call it hustle, like relentlessly going after something you want, is going to rid us of potential potential Wangari Maathais, potential Marie Curies, because we need people. We need people to say, regardless of the odds, regardless of how hard it is, regardless of what it might cost me, right? I'm going to try and do this thing that I feel can impact my community. I'm going to try and do this thing that can improve how we do certain things in our world today, right? So there's that shift away from hustle culture towards being unbothered, towards soft life, towards more balanced, peaceful life arrangement, right? That allows for flexibility, time with family, a move away from this kind of ambition chasing material success towards maybe other ways of defining success. But if you have a dream, if you have an idea, if you have something that is deep in your soul that you know that if I could bring this thing to life, it will improve not just my life, but the life of lots of people around me, and why not even globally, right? And that should be what drives how hard you're pushing, how hard you're working, how relentless you are, right? Not trying to get a promotion, not necessarily trying to get more money, but how can I bring this dream? How can I fulfill this desire that I have to make things better? And sometimes being deeply passionate about something, building something impactful is hard. It's not soft, right? It's not soft and it's not unbothered. It's very bothered and it's very hard to do it, right? You have to really be bothered about the current state of things, and you have to be willing to go the extra mile, to go where other people are not willing to go, to get to a breakthrough, to do something that even slightly moves the needle. And in Africa, for example, specifically, because I care a lot about this continent, on top of just the fact that we don't just want to hustle for the sake of hustle, even if you say you want to chase your dreams, there's socioeconomic, political climates. Hey, it's not for the weak, I'm telling you. When you look at the fact that there is no infrastructure, corruption everywhere, like no matter how hard you work, it's very hard to see how all of these go somewhere positive when our politicians, when things just don't seem to be going in a direction that encourages us to be creative, to have hope, to really chase after the things that we want that will ultimately lead to a better continent for all of us to live in. Interesting research that gave me a little bit of hope about this, because I thought, oh my gosh, we are no longer trying to be passionate about things anymore because we all want to live a soft life. This study tested optimism levels in certain parts of the continent before and after the COVID pandemic, and what they found was that overall on the continent, the level of optimism was still very high. So there is optimism, there is ambition, but the socioeconomic context is just very difficult. But the fact that even with the problems of the African continent were made worse with the pandemic, right, than it was before. But I was happy to learn that at least with the people that participated in that study, the levels of optimism are still quite high. But what they also found is that it's not universal. Countries like Rwanda score very high, significantly higher than other African countries on the levels of optimism amongst their youth. And obviously, if you go and look at what's happening in Rwanda, you might be able to see the reasons why. I'm not going to get into that in this video, why maybe the youth in those countries feel a lot more optimistic about the future. And then the flip side of the countries that actually saw a significant dip in levels of optimism, South Africa and Nigeria registered a significant decline in the youth's optimism. And again, I would say if you look at those countries, you will be able to see the socioeconomic and political reasons why the youth are just like, what is even the point? What is the point of this thing that we're doing here? It makes sense. But even though the odds are against us, even though, yes, there are all of these obstacles that we have to deal with on this continent that maybe people elsewhere may not have to deal with, I still just want to encourage us, because if this continent is going to go anywhere, it's still down to us. We have the biggest and growing population of young people in the world. Like in Germany and Japan and Korea, they are worried that soon they will only have old people in the economy and there will not be enough young people to keep fueling economic growth. But in Africa, we are popping these babies out, I'm telling you. We are popping babies out left, right, and center. What the research also showed was that the ambitions and the hopefulness of African youth and their desire to live out their purpose is also a double-edged sword, because if you have a massive population of young people who are ambitious, they have energy, they want to work, but you don't create the context, the environment that allows for these people to thrive, then we are going to see another whole kind of trouble on this continent down the line. Because what are all these people with lots of energy going to do if there are no jobs, if there are no this and there's no that? They'll either all start migrating to the country that need young people, or it's not gonna be fun. You don't want a lot of people with time on their hands. We don't want that. We don't want that. Yeah, and another reason why I wanted to make this video was for women. And this is the reason I chose two women to tell these stories, because there are lots and lots of men who can also be great examples of obsessive dedication to our goals, the cost of that kind of dedication. You know, there are many men who exemplify that, but I wanted to specifically make this video with women because a lot of the time women, especially in 2025, I feel like there's this big drive, this big campaign to push women back. Yes, I'm saying push women back into the home, right? Like, we must be traditional wives, we want the soft life, we want to be kept women, we want to be, you know, taken care of, and we don't want to do anything. You don't want to think about the rent, the this, the that. Let him just do it and leave me out of it. I'll take care of the children. In fact, we'll even have a nanny and a chef. I don't have to do all that. I just want to be a princess. I just want to live here and not have to worry about nothing. And sure, great, good for you. I just think that on this continent, women make up the majority. We are more than half of this population. And if we're really talking realistically about how do we in our own small ways do things that could impact this continent as a whole, and of course the world, then we can't do it without the women. We can't do it without the women. We need women. Besides our ability to birth and care for children, I feel like every woman has that divine purpose. You may not believe in God, maybe the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, there is that divine purpose in each one of us beyond our reproductive capabilities, you know, that we lose. You know, it's one thing if it's just like taking care of the children and the home is already too much for me and I cannot. But it's a whole other thing when you know in your heart that you had this dream, you had this desire to live this life, to build something, to create something of meaning, of value for people around you, but then you don't let yourself go there because you are overwhelmingly being bombarded with this conversation about women should be feminine, women should be soft, don't be masculine, don't be out here working too hard. There are some people who genuinely don't have desire for many things. They just want to live a simple life, and those ones, it's good for them because it's fine. But then there is a segment of the population that has dreams, has desires, but the environment just doesn't encourage them to go after those dreams. The punishment, the work culture, the intensity of their society just makes it so that they're just like, why would I do that? Why would I even try? And those are the people I'm speaking to here. Like, if you are that person who knows that you have a dream, you have a desire, a plan, it's like something that has been eating you up on the inside, like, I want to do this thing, I've always dreamed of it, I've always wanted to do this. It doesn't matter how silly, how small, how crazy it might seem. Don't let it die. Don't let it die. Don't let it die. Let's not let our dreams die. Let's not let our hopes die just because the world we live in is messed up. So one of the reasons I made this video was to create that space for us to reflect on what our dreams are, what the cost of these dreams will be, because inevitably there is cost, and how we can hold on to these dreams, because the cost, the fear of what could go wrong cannot keep us from going, because like I've said, you will not find peace, you will only find regret. So how can we stay inspired? How can we stay motivated and driven to keep going? And I hope that the stories that I've shared and my little reflections gives us enough to say, you know what, it's hard, but we are going to do it. I'm going to keep going after my dreams. I'm going to keep chasing this, living out this purpose that I feel is in me. And I hope that this video inspires you, because it has inspired me. I was going through quite a few things, working on a lot of things, feeling very tired. But by the time I finished reading their stories and filming all these reflections, I was like, you know what? let's go get them. Let's go get this money. Let's push the content. Let's go get the music. Let's finish the research papers. Let's do the thing. And that's where I'm at right now. Hopefully this gives me enough juice to push until another time, and then maybe then I have another video to help us push again. But yeah, this is this video. I hope that you take from it what you can in your own journey, and we can do small big things in our corners of this continent, and maybe we are able to move it forward. Please drop a comment, tell me what journey you're on. This is a safe space for us to have these conversations on this platform. So yeah, share it with someone who might relate. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.